So, truth, the journey of truth, the journey of authentic self, the journey of authentic truth. So, what are the kind of things that help us develop whatever it is that our truth is? You hear people say all the time, this is my truth, this is my truth, this is my truth. And then they speak that truth, whatever that might be. Well, how is people's truth even developed? I think it's important to understand that when somebody says this is my truth, it's actually based in their experience in their life. We come into this world, we're born into this world, and we start getting hit with different belief systems, right? Our parents, right from the word go, are kind of implying their own belief systems onto us. And they've had their belief systems implied onto them through their parents, through society. So when we come out of the chute and we're kind of starting to grow up, we start living life through the experiences of what our life is. And along that journey of life, we learn these belief systems. I guess a few of these belief systems would be, when I was a kid, I was taught, I remember my mom at a young age told me that because I was brown skin color and I was First Nation or Indian, as we used that term in those days. Nowadays it's different, but in those days I was an Indian. She had kind of given me a warning that, you're going to be treated differently in this world. And as a young kid, I didn't really understand what that even meant. So it kind of confused me right from the start. But that little comment stuck in the back of my brain as I grew up. And as I kind of grew into my young years going to school, in elementary school, I started understanding what that actually meant. I went to a Catholic school that was predominantly white. There was me, who was brown, First Nation, Indian, and there was another person or two that was Indian. My brother had more of a white complexion, but I started feeling the effects of what she meant in school. Like, kids can be mean, but the thing about kids is they don't learn that on their own, because kids fundamentally, inherently, are kind and loving and don't see color. So whatever these kids were saying to me had to been ingrained and indoctrinated in their own journey of learning what their truth was. So they would say things to me that weren't really nice. I won't get into what they were saying, but then I started playing hockey. And as I'm playing hockey, standing on the face-off circle against other teams from all different parts of our city and our territory here, I will say some of what I was told in those days was like, you wagon burner, you drunken Indian, saying things about my mom and about my culture and about my race, just really mean things. And that was normal. And then I would listen to other people talk about Indians, and they didn't have really good things to say about them, and I remember hearing jokes when I was a kid. How do you keep a paycheck hidden from an Indian guy? Well, you hide it under his work boots. Why? Because they don't work. And the belief was that they get free money and they get everything given to them, and they're lazy, and they're dumb, and they're addicts and alcoholics. And so I'm learning all of this as a young child growing into my junior high years. And what I noticed as I look back is I really tried to stay away from the First Nations culture and community. So what I'm doing along this journey is I'm building my truth. But my truth is being built on the traumas or the infectious, hateful words that I'm hearing. And because I am, and I know that I'm First Nations, I don't want to be part of what it is these people are saying. And then part of that was tied into what I was warned about as a kid by my mom. And as I kind of go through these years, I'm developing these defense mechanisms, these ideologies, and these truths that I didn't know I was even developing, because I'm just living life as a kid. And the thing is I want to be accepted by my peers. Everybody does. I want to be accepted in school. I want to be accepted by the teachers. I want to be accepted by my friends and by, my employer when I turn 16. But these things under the surface really affected a lot of my behaviors and how I interacted with the world. And I remember when I was really young, I don't know what age I was, but I remember trying to rub the brown off my skin. And that's really hurtful to think of, me today, to think about that little boy who was trying to rub that off of his skin that didn't know you couldn't. But that's how bad I wanted to run from who I was. So as I kind of get into the societal belief systems of Western ideology, based in, self, every man for himself. Some of these man belief systems stand up and be a man, but I'm only a boy. Don't cry. Boys don't cry. Men don't cry. Women are to be treated like this and men are to be treated like that. Work hard, make a lot of money, get a nice house, go to school and get a good job, try to be smart. And I remember I wasn't very smart in school, academically smart. I was, a 50, 60% student. And I remember looking back at the shame that I felt because I wasn't able to keep up and be validated with my fellow students and friends that were getting 70s and 80s and 90s. And because I wasn't living up to an ideology of the school board, the school system in our society, I felt like I was less than. And, there was times where I had to get certain people their paperwork so I could cheat and do my homework and get higher marks. And when I would do that, there's something inside of me, again, I'm looking back, I'm actually lying to people and to myself. But I'm doing these things to try to achieve this ideology of a bar set by the society that I've grown up into. And then I would go home with these low marks, and my mom, she was really cool about it, but in the same breath, she always wanted me to get better marks, right? My mom wanted the best for me in this world. And she didn't have the greatest marks, and so she was trying to set the next generation on a better path, which was me and my brother. So I'm trying to live up to pressures of my mom, pressures of the school, pressures of, my culture, not wanting to be that, not being smart, trying to be smart. But I was really good at sports, and I really connected with sports. And I connected with my fellow human in sports, and I got a lot of validation of myself through that. And that was all living, with my heart. And I felt so accepted and natural when I played sport. And then I get into, the dating scene in junior high. And, from what I could tell, I guess I was somewhat attractive because girls liked me and they wanted to date me, but I had such a low self-esteem that I only dated them because that's what I was supposed to do. And once I would start dating someone in grade 8 or grade 9, then I wouldn't actually talk to them because I was too scared and I had a fear. But again, back to the belief system that, the guy is supposed to take charge and he's supposed to have this confidence and and the girl's supposed to play their role, whatever it is. And I'm trying to live up to all these roles and systems that I don't even really understand, because I don't really know, really, in some ways, who I am. Because I'm trying to live up to a lot of belief systems that aren't even really mine, that I just had no choice, and I had to grow up into these with no choice. And another example of this was, I went to a Catholic school, and I had to learn how to pray and say these Christian prayers and do, eat the Eucharist and go to Mass every week and sing these songs. And I'm just a kid. I just go to the school that my mom puts me in. I just do what everyone else is doing, and I want to fit in. So I just do these things. And I remember learning about some of the ideologies based in this religion, and I didn't really agree with some of it. But I just did it anyway. I think because I needed the validation of the peers, and I didn't want to be left out. So in some ways, I'm going against myself in so many ways early in my life. And as I've worked with so many people and trying to help them out of their own darkness, and I get to them when they're in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, I see the same exact things that I'm explaining in these people's lives. And it's based on the system that we grow up in. And the system that I'm going to describe right here, before I keep going on, is we live in a system based on the foundation of selfishness. And when I say selfishness, I don't mean that in a fully negative term. I mean it in a factual term, that we're only concerned with ourselves, our own goals, our own resentments, our own achievements, our own accolades, our own feelings, our own possessions, our own everything. And in that quest for everything for ourselves and only being self-concerned, I started developing the self-centeredness that actually was a lot of the root of my problems, of the spiritual malady that I suffered, and i.e. mental health issues, thoughts of suicide and some anxiety and whatever else is deemed mental health. But to me, it's a spiritual health component, which I will get to. And so I walk through the rest of my teenage years, and I get to this spot where I'm about 14 or 15, and I feel off, and I don't really know what's wrong. And I think a lot of people in their lives, they get to these spots in life where they don't know what's really wrong. And I look back at my life as I sit here today, and I look back at that 14, 15-year-old kid, and of course I didn't know what was wrong, because I kept trying to validate who I was with the things outside of myself, with the systems and the beliefs of what I was supposed to believe and how I was supposed to be and what a boy and a man's supposed to be. How am I supposed to act in this world? What am I supposed to go for? What are my goals? And I'm making these goals and ideologies and belief systems on just what I've learned through my eyes and ears, what I'm seeing and hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. I'm using these five senses. And all the while, as I'm using these five senses to interpret life, examining the evidence of these senses, developing my own reasonable approach and interpretation of what life is about, I'm developing what my truth is. And some of my truth as I grew up was I started disconnecting from my First Nations people. I started judging other races. I started hating other kinds of music. I started really getting hard and fast lines. And basically what I'm doing is I'm closing my mind to other ideas, because I think that mine are better based on who I'm learning them from and how I'm learning them. But some of these boxes and ideologies that I'm building is also based on the fears that I have of not being accepted, or trying to keep certain things out because I don't want to be vulnerable, because I'm afraid, because I haven't been taught that vulnerability was okay. So then I keep walking through these years, and then I find drugs and alcohol. And finally I'm able to be at ease. I'm able to be kind of who I am. I'm kind of been able to speak my truth while I've been drinking. And I feel good because I'm saying certain things that I've always wanted to say, but I never had the courage to until I drank. And then I'm able to like interact and mingle with the opposite sex easier because now my inhibitions are lowered and I'm able to do things in a different way. And so it really worked for me for quite a while. But then that starts turning on me. And the one thing I remember is even when I would close the door to my bedroom, I was still me. And I was still restless, irritable, discontent. I was still not comfortable with who I was in many respects. And I grew up very angry and aggressive and violent. I spent my whole junior high and elementary and high school years fighting, fist fighting. And I got a reputation of a scrapper. And I could use my mind and emotional manipulation in an angry way to manipulate the world to deliver me what it was that I wanted. And I wanted the respect. And I got a lot of that respect from the type of person that people thought I was. And then as they're seeing who I am, then I got to be that even more. So I remember going through those teenage years being violent and angry and mad, also happy and a party animal. And my identity became party animal, happy when I was drunk sometimes, but also violent and mean. And I could drop you at the drop of a hat. And I had no issues with fighting. But I remember as I think back about that, and I remember in those moments, I was scared shitless to fight. I never wanted to. But I felt like I had to because that's the reputation that I had built for myself. And I got that respect. And after every fight, if I won especially, man, did people give me what it seemed like was respect. But then I also remember a lot of people talking shit behind my back about me as a party animal, as an angry and violent person. Because every now and then you would hear somebody tell you the truth about what people were saying. And then I remember that feeling in the pit of my stomach. And it was an anxious feeling. So then I kind of make it through, with drugs and alcohol. I quit drinking at 22 on a prayer. And my life was going downhill. I was in and out of jail from the time I was 16 to like 18 or 19. I almost killed a guy one night while I was drunk fighting. And luckily he didn't show up in court, and that could have changed my whole life. I ended up getting to the point with my alcoholism that I didn't know what was wrong with me. I couldn't stop. And one day I prayed so hard for God to stop this. And I didn't really believe in God, but I was so desperate that I asked for help. And I never drank from that day on. I was 22 years old almost. But the thing after that is once I put my solution of drugs and alcohol down, because it was medicating a lot of that restless, irritable, discontent, spiritual malady within myself, but it didn't work anymore. And as I put the solution down, my mind got worse in many respects. And I'm looking around the world once again going, what's the point? What is the point of life? Life's supposed to be happy and supposed to be joyous and all this fun stuff. And I'm 22 years old looking at it like this ain't fucking happiness. There's some happy moments, but it looked really discouraging. Looked futile. And I wasn't looking forward to the rest of my life. And I was kind of like, okay, well, what are you going to do? And I look to the world. I look to the ideologies and the belief systems that have been indoctrinated and set upon me. And it looked like get rich, have things, have a nice wife and a nice house and a great job and run your own business and have a lot of money and, get the family and the white picket fence and do all these things and you're going to be happy. Well, I did that. And you know what? I got a lot of relief out of that. But I think a lot of people in this world, they only get relief out of the achievement of a lot of these things. And the pressures of the world, especially once you get involved in that way of life. Like for me, I was running a business. And because that was the expectation that I'm now a business owner and I have to make this work. And there's so much pride under that that's trying to make this work. Because if I don't do it, I'm going to feel like a failure. I'm going to look like a failure. And I remember my one boss had said, what are you trying to prove anyway? Just work for me. And I wouldn't. And so I didn't want to have to go back to him with my tail between my legs and say, you were right. So pride did push this along. And I didn't want to turn back on it. I wanted to be successful in this world. I wanted people to respect me. And in many respects, because of what I had learned about myself as an Indian, I wanted to say, fuck you, world. Look, I can do this. Being Indian and all, being from the community I came from, I can do this. So I made it my mission. And I did it. But when I look back at my life again, all I really got out of buying that $1 million house and all these beautiful trucks and the boats and things, like I got a lot of relief, but never was it enough. Never was there enough of what I thought I wanted. And there was never going to be enough. I can look back and say that today. Because I was always chasing something to keep my pride and my ego satisfied. And my pride and my ego can only be satisfied if I achieved these goals and got these shiny things and people looked at me in a certain way. Then I felt confident. I had self-esteem. But I didn't really have real self-esteem when I can compare it to what self-esteem means to me today. It was a false self-esteem. And I think a lot of our world bases their life in this false self-esteem, based in the material goods and what people think you are, and not really knowing oneself at the core, because our world teaches us to not be vulnerable, to not look at the truth of who you are and what really bothers you and speak that truth, because we're so worried about conflict with people. But if we don't speak the truth about what it is that's bothering us, and we try to avoid conflict constantly with all sorts of interactions in our world, we never really avoid the conflict. Because the conflict is within myself. And when I do things that are shitty in this world, there's a conflict in the deep inner part of me that creates the shame, because I know deep down that what I'm doing is wrong. But in many respects, I can do that wrong thing, whatever it may be. Maybe it's using women. Maybe it's stepping on the toes of people so that I can take something from them and have it in my life. Every man for himself kind of ideology. First come, first serve. And that is the selfishness foundation of what our society and my life was built on. But as I go out and do these things, get angry at people, maybe take from people in a not a good way, or mind and emotionally manipulate in a way that's like a lie, but I justify it. The thing is that I can't justify it to the truth of myself deep down in my core, because that truth always fucking knows. But I don't really know that because the society that I grow up in is validating that everywhere I turn. And if I go share this experience with somebody else in this world, they're like, I would have done that too. Yeah, It is every man for himself. Fuck him. Fuck her. Oh, you're scoring all these women. Good for you, bro. Fucking high five. But really, it's not right. And I know at the fundamental core of myself that these things aren't right. But I'm so validated within the society I live in that it's okay. So in essence, I got to tell myself a lie that it's okay. But really, under the layers of this false truth, the real truth knows that it's not okay. So as I live like this, I'm actually dishonoring my own consciousness. And I'm creating shame as I act out like this. But I don't really know it. And I think a lot of people in our society, that happens to them. And there's such a complex inner world in the subconscious of like what's right and what's there to guide us in a good way. It's built right into us to guide us in a good way. It's built in love. And love is actually real truth. But we got to live in this false truth or this false integrity and live kind of a lie. And then as we don't live up to the truth of, as we don't live up to the ideologies of status, of what we're supposed to be, of who's on our arm, of how much money we have or whatever, because we're not living up to what the indoctrination belief systems are, we also create more shame. So we're like double compounding the shame that our subconscious is feeling. And that really affects us in ways that we do not understand in a logical way. And then we get into later life, like for myself, as I built this business and I was making millions of dollars and I had everything, there was a part of me that really wasn't happy. But when I look back at my life today, the things that made me the happiest was my wife and my kids and the times that we had and the times we were on the water in the boat and we were doing simple things like fishing and camping. You know, my kids would have birthday parties and there'd be other kids. Those were the things that really lit me up. Why? Because they were based in love. They were based in truth of love. They weren't based in pride and validation. And that's interesting to reflect on. And I've seen that in so many people. So as I the quest for material things and for status, that all wore off again. And then again, I found a substance and that gave me the ease and comfort that I needed. But then as that burned down my life, I'm back to square one. The cool thing is this isn't going to sound cool, but the cool thing is I burnt my life right to the ground. I ended up using substances powerless for so many years that I ended up losing everything. I lost my business, I lost my house, I lost my family, I lost my boat, I lost my trucks, I lost my tools. I was selling everything off so I could keep using because I had such a deep spiritual malady that I needed to medicate with something. But the thing is that the substance didn't work either anymore at all. So as I'm left in the rubble of what I thought my life was, I'm sitting in the smoldering coals of what I thought who I was. And I remember looking back and I'm like, who are you now, Bill? Who the fuck are you now? You're not the owner of the company. You're not even a husband. You're barely a father. You're definitely not the owner of that nice truck and all of these things. When I look back, I was only those things were me. The truck was me. I wasn't driving my truck for me. I drove it for you. I didn't buy my house for me. I bought it for you so that you could think of me in a certain way. Because that's what I had learned. My truth along the way was based on a lot of brokenness and a lot of ideologies that weren't mine. And even when I would speak the truth in certain aspects of my journey of life, I would do it in an angry way because I had all these belief systems and ideologies of what I thought was respect, what I thought was right. And if you didn't live up to that, I fucking belittled you with my truth. I double-barreled you with truth. But it really wasn't truth based in love. It was subjective truth based in the experiences that I had in my life. And the defense mechanisms and the walls that I built to protect me and the ideologies of what I thought life was. So my truth was based in a whole bunch of pride ideologies that weren't even real. But if you ask me in those moments how real that was, I could tell you it was so real. That was my truth. But as I journeyed from that rubble into a life of spirituality, and when I say spirituality, I mean I had to take a good look at what and who I really was. A huge part of spirituality that I believe that most people miss out on is the self-personal inventory, stock taking of oneself, and the humiliation and the pain of one's admission of these things, of who I am. Angry, violent, manipulative, living in all these ideologies and fucking building these hard and fast lines and judging all these different races and my own race and me, looking at the shame. This personal inventory aspect is crucial to leveling up into higher states of consciousness. And then you add that with the prayer and the meditation, and then really trying to change who I was because I didn't like what I saw, trying to change who I was. And in these moments of recovery and moving through my life in a good way, and I don't mean recovery just from a substance, I mean recovery from a spiritual malady, and trying to really put effort into changing these ideals, these attitudes, and these belief systems. And through that willingness to change, I've come out the other side and built a lot of character. I've been able to discard a lot of these damaged and unsaleable goods that I lived my life in. I've been able to look at why I was angry. I've been able to look at why I sought and made these material things the most important thing in my life. And I would put love in that fundamental part of me buried under all this shit. And when I say the fundamental part of me, I mean that loving guidance system that was in me that actually produced the best results in my life when I look back. But I always tried to make the things and the status and the money and the goals and the objects more important. But really, when I reflect back in my life, the most important things that made me feel the most alive, allowed me to be me, was the time with my kids, with my wife, with my family. But I got it all confused. And I think society gets it confused. And the evidence of that is a lot of people get to the midlife and they destroy their marriages. And through the marriage, which is another ideology that is really ingrained in our society, that people have to be married. That is a huge ideology. But the thing about that ideology is most marriages fail. And out of the 50% that don't fail, these people are in loveless relationships because they're living their relationship, but with the foundation of self. I found that the best way to navigate this is the selflessness. But I only learned that through the building of character, through looking at myself, through the willingness to change. And today I'm just like, wow, I do not want to live that way ever again. And I try to go and help people and be selfless and be altruistic. And I think one of the biggest things for me is that connection with this higher power. I couldn't change myself or else I would have. But since I've tapped into this power, it's helped me in every aspect of my life. And I would never want to live my life without, surrendering to this higher power on a daily and a moment-to-moment basis throughout my whole day. The thing about my life is I tried to run everything in my life. Now I can do it differently, and I ask my Creator, my God, my higher power to run my life. It's so much easier. So much easier. And I don't need all of the things that gave me relief that I thought would give me the freedom. I thought that all the money and the house and the bells and the whistles and all of these toys would give me that happiness I was looking for, because that's what I was told. But I found that I don't need any of that shit to be really happy. I've never been happier. I'm basically a minimalist now. I don't need much because it's an inside job. Once I do the inner work, the inner house cleaning, and I work for other people and I try to pack into the stream of life for others, through the inside job and the building of character and relying on this part of me that is love, that is the God inside of me, connecting that to the God that's in the universe, the love that's in the universe, through that, I found the fulfillment and the aspects of life that I always looked for in things and people and validation. And my self-confidence today is based in the truth of myself, based in the connection I have with this higher power. So I started this whole talk with the truth. Truth is subjective to the ideologies and the belief systems and the traumas and the walls that we build. And that truth, as we go through our lives, typically we have to justify that truth. And when we speak that truth, the reason why we're speaking it is because we have to justify it. And think about your life. As you speak your truth through your life, it always has to be justified. You always got to validate that to other people. Why? Because it's based in pride. It's based in broken parts of us that we don't even know are broken. Because genuine, real truth never has to be justified. Love, think about it. Love never needs justification. The truth and love for yourself, the truth and love with your higher power, getting to that point where your boundaries are set from that loving place for yourself and for others, you don't need to justify it. And we don't need to set the boundaries in our lives like we have for all of our lives. We've set boundaries out of the insecurities and the brokenness and the protection of ourselves. Trying to protect ourselves. But it was all based in the ego. The broken parts. When I say ego, it's like edging God out. What does edging God out really mean? What does ego really mean? It means the absence of love for you and for myself. So as we go through these processes of inter-reflection and accepting a lot of these negative parts about ourselves, we can bring that darkness to the light and we can admit it and be vulnerable with ourselves and with other people. And today when I look at the foundations of my life are not built on what you think I am and what I have. The foundation of my life is based on my relationship with God and the relationship that I have with myself and my peers. And when I fell on my face years ago and I was left in that rubble, I had no friends around left. But today if I fall down, I have a lot of friends that pick me up. Because they care about who I am and they care about who they are. And that fundamental idea of every man, woman, and child is based in love. But it's often obscured, means blocked out by calamity and pomp and worship of all these other things that we've learned in our society. The pomp is self and the worship of other things creates the calamity within my psyche. And I'm not good with me. But once I clear all that out and I start living with the guidance system that I was given by Creator, and I start living with love in everything I do, but it takes time. It takes time to learn that and understand it. I'll say it like this. It takes time to understand self. It takes time to understand selfish and self-centered fear, self-seeking, and how dishonesty creeps in. Dishonesty is attached to that false integrity of lies that we tell ourselves because we have to. In any given moment sometimes. So I guess what I'm going to finish off with here is genuine truth and truth from love. Love needs nothing. It is full, it is complete, and it is giving and it needs nothing to complete it. Whereas pride and ego always need to be fed energy constantly, and never is there enough of what we think we want. And as we live this life of discontentment and selfishness, we often hurt other people. And these relationships that are built in this pride and this ego, they often fail down the road, because the reason why they were so successful through the years that they were was based on the insecurity and the broken overlap of codependency, or your brokenness filled some of my brokenness and we were okay. But down the road that fails because it's based in force, where true power and love needs nothing. So if you're on the journey of healing, healing can also be an ideology. And you can think that just because you do certain things, you're going to heal. But I'll tell you that the healing journey is a never-ending life journey. And it's actually presented through every single circumstance of your life. And if you're willing to learn that lesson in each and every individual circumstance, and you can bring love into it, you will heal. Millimeter by millimeter by millimeter. And you will be launched into a level of life that you could not even dream. And you will have so many different profound changes in the way that you think and look at life, the way that you look at fellow human beings. You will start understanding that all people have had this journey of their own truth. And everybody, to some extent, is emotionally ill, spiritually sick, and frequently wrong. Just like you, just like me. And then we understand what real tolerance and love is for our fellow human and for ourselves. Understanding that other people's shortcomings, viewpoints, and respecting their opinions are attitudes that make us more useful to other people, to life, to God's universe. So don't stop. Seek that truth. Whatever that truth is for you at this moment, if you're going towards authentic truth, whatever the truth is in the moment where you're at in your life, speak it. Because truth is the journey. And through you speaking that truth and being truthful as you can in your authentic self, whether you're still partly broken or not, doesn't matter. Because the journey of truth and speaking your truth in those moments gives you some confidence. Gives you security in who you are. And the truth may not be the truth in that moment. Be open enough to know that that might not be the truth in a day or a week or a year. But when you get to authentic truth of love, that truth is kind of the goal. But when you get to that truth and you hit that goal, it's not the goal, because now the journey really starts. And you try to help people understand their own truth in a loving and kind and tolerant and forgiving way. So I love you. And I hope that you got something out of this talk today. I'm always open to questions and comments. I'm always open to talking, interacting. If you have requests for material, or you just want to shoot the shit, you want me to talk on a certain subject, I would love to do a podcast with you probably, or at least do a questions and answer period and record it or not record it. So if you're out there and you want to change and you want to grow and you want to learn, seek that. And the last bit of advice is call on that power that's out there that's greater than yourself. There is one out there and it loves you. Hi.